Hi, and thank you for joining me in today's session where I'm going to be speaking with Stephanie Dodier, the founder of Going Beyond the Food Method. Stephanie and I are going to chat about the 3 pillars of an effective nurturing funnel. And in this session, you'll learn what is a nurturing funnel and why do you need one, the 3 different levels of conversation you need to have with your potential clients, and also of how a nurturing funnel can help your clients to see you as an expert. All amazing topics. I love the way that Stephanie shares this information about funnels with so much heart and so much soul. I know you're going to love this session. Without further ado, let's take it away.
Hey everyone. So I wanted to talk about today something that has changed my business significantly, which is a nurturing funnel. And I know for many of us as health practitioners, the word marketing is something really scary and honestly not something that we're comfortable with, right? Selling can be really uncomfortable. And it was for me for the first, I want to say like 4 years of me doing my business until I realized that I could do marketing in the way that made me feel comfortable and in turn converted more of my client. And one of the quotes or the say that really changed my perspective is marketing is the art of making change happen. And when we consider the word change, we want to look at our client or our patient. We create transformation for them by marketing our business. Us being successful means our client being successful. And change for us is a change in revenue. Better is our marketing, better is our revenue, right? And we have to have revenue. Like there's a whole money mindset thing behind this, but we need to make money to be able to sustain our business and to help more people. So one of the elements that tremendously changed my business is a funnel. And a funnel is a system or a process into which we put our future client into that helps them take the journey with us or convert to a sale. And it can be made of a series of emails. It can be some text messages, some podcasts, some video. It's a collection in a very orderly fashion of those input that the client goes through, get information about us and our product, and then converts. As I was trying to put through this nurturing funnel in my business, I really came to the realization there's 3 pillars, and that's what we teach in our mentorship program. So we run mentorship program in a very niche area, which is the non-diet approach to health and food, which is around intuitive eating and body image healing for chronic dieter. So for all of you that have businesses perhaps on chronic condition or health aspect that the client has been used and abused by the traditional medical approach, in my case, chronic dieter in the weight loss industry. I see people using this type of funnel. We can think of Dr. Isabella Wentz that use it in the case of Hashimoto. We have people using it in the EBV sector because these are very niche area where the client is desperate for another solution, but at the same time, extremely scared. So when we look at this type of customer, we want to focus on 3 fundamental of our pillars in our nurturing funnel. Number 1, having readiness in our clients. So targeting clients that are ready to make changes in their life, clients that are ready to actually create a transaction with us. And let's dive into this ideal client readiness. So I want to kind of step back and say, to have an effective nurturing funnel, you need to have a good business strategy. So I hope everyone listening today has created a business strategy. And one element of that is clearly understanding your ideal client, right? Mm-hmm. Having a very narrow approach that will allow you to speak into words that that ideal client will connect to. And when we look at our ideal client readiness, we like to approach it in looking at a trans-theoretical model of change. Many of you probably studied that within your certification. These are 6 stages that a patient or a client has to go through to finally enter into the transformation. we have to create marketing elements, pieces of content that are targeted to each stages. We don't speak to a client that is in a stage of contemplation in the same way that a client that's ready to take action. So stage number one is understand your ideal client and create the nurturing funnel and create pieces of content that are specific to each stages that are going to push your client on to the next stages. The next pillar of an effective nurturing funnel is the type of content you're creating. So in the very niche area for us that is chronic dieter, we need to connect with our client at the emotional level because our client has been used and abused by the weight loss industry. And the last thing they need is more pressure, more fear-based marketing. So we have developed this approach that is love-based, that is emotional-based marketing. We connect with them in how they feel currently and how they want to feel in the future. And so as I was developing this marketing approach, I did some research because we all like research, right, as health professional. And when I look at studies, because there's people studying marketing, it is said that people that have marketing strategy that are emotion-based have a 50% better conversion rate than those that have fear-based marketing technique that are related to logical content. 50% better conversion.
Wow.
That's amazing, right?
That's an amazing number. Yeah. I'm taking a note.
So how do we do this? The number one part is understanding your ideal client, right? Deeply understanding him or her. Most of us have been in the shoes of our ideal client before. So if you step back into your own story, I don't know, 5, 10, 20 years ago, how did you feel back then? So in your content, you want to have pieces that validate how they feel today, and then pieces of content that show them how they can feel in the future. And then the third piece is inspire your client to get to that level of feeling.
So let me pause you for a second and ask you a question. So I love how you just broke that down into 3 steps.
Yeah.
Would you recommend having those 3 steps in one single piece of content, or do you break it up? Like, say that was over a several part email autoresponder or a series that like a welcome nurture sequence. So would you bundle them together or would you separate them out?
I would separate them out.
Okay.
The reason why I say this is when you build a nurturing funnel, it's more than one pieces of content, right? People will go through 3, 4, 5, 6, however long the funnel is. So you have an opportunity to deep dive into one element to the point where my goal is for the client or the patient to say, holy moly, she knows how I'm feeling. Is she beside me?
Wow. Yeah. That's a beautiful place to get to with a potential client. If you feel like you know, I've heard somebody say, start the conversation where the client already is in their own mind, you know?
Yes.
So meet them where they're at. And that comes back to what you were saying about this first piece being know your ideal client really well, inside and out.
Absolutely. So when we get to the point where we understand them and we understand how they feel right now, and we can say like, we get it, then they create, and we'll get to that in the third pillar, trust in you because you get them. And the next piece is about recognizing that they A, feel the way they feel today, but B, there's a possibility for them to feel different.
Right.
And then when you can build and demonstrate that bridge of where they are and where they can be, that's when you create the inspiration piece.
Okay.
So, emotional advertising campaign perform twice as well. Now, the best way to do this is to practice your storytelling writing. And you have to work on this, because typically most health practitioners are, just like I was, left brain folks, right? We think of science, we think of data point, and we have a very difficult time connecting with the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice to all of you is, if you have, or starting a business or transitioning a business, you have a small audience base, start practicing right now, right? Start writing content on social media, pieces for your website that are emotional based, and ask people for feedback. Send it to your email newsletter. Get people to reply back or tell them how they connected with your content. And as you evolve and as your platform grows, it'll be much easier for you to connect with, at the emotional level, with other people. And then we'll get into the last piece, the third pillar of an effective nurturing funnel, which is nurturing, right? When we have an audience like mine, an audience that have been chronically dieting for their whole life, they don't like their body, they're obsessed with food, they think that there's nothing they can do to get out of that vicious cycle, and I'm proposing to them a brand new approach that's called intuitive eating, they're like, what is she talking about? It's impossible that I don't have to diet. It's impossible that I won't have to restrict food for the rest of my life. And then I have to educate them. I have to explain to them what intuitive eating is, what it can do for them, always from a place of emotion, right? I have to educate, because to our new client and customers and patient, our approach is what they call completely crazy. It's so out of the left field that if you don't explain and nurture them and educate them, they're likely won't press the buy button. Because when you don't do fear-based marketing and you do heart-based marketing, as I like to say, we have to educate. We have to show people the benefit, the advantage, and the outcome. So when we talk about nurturing content, it's about developing a trust in you, right? As an expert, as a practitioner, trust in your process, your product, your offer, and then finally, trust in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, in my business, it's very relevant, because when we look at a non-diet approach, people have been failing for 10, 15, 30 years dieting, right? Because diet have a 95% failure rate. So they don't trust themselves anymore. So when you get a consultation call, I started to observe people that said, well, it sounds good. I know it could work for me, but I don't want to invest because I'm going to fail again. So that last piece is the differentiating factor in an effective nurturing funnel versus a non, is if you can build trust in themselves.
And how do you help people overcome that lack of trust in themselves? I'm sure this is something that a lot of coaches and practitioners listening struggle with in their own practice.
Absolutely. So I want to say, I'll come back to the business strategy and the ideal client, right? So when we build a very good image of our ideal client, we also understand their own inner roadblock, right? So it's either because you've been there before or you did an interview with ideal client, you have to understand what their own irrational thoughts are about themselves and their situations. For example, for me in my world is I lack willpower. So our future client in the non-diet world are like, I lack discipline and willpower. Even though they don't, that's their own deep belief about themselves. So a piece of content could be a podcast or blog post about what is willpower, like what is the science behind willpower and why it's not an effective approach for anyone. Like willpower is a limited resources no matter who you look at, right? So we broke it down from a science perspective and then related back to our ideal client. So now they can say, well, that's not an excuse anymore. Like I can actually be self-disciplined if I took this different approach.
Yes.
So it's come back to understanding your client and then building piece of content based on what their irrational beliefs are.
And that's the one
themselves.
phrase that I really want to highlight several times. I love that you said that, is irrational, like getting into the psychology and the inner workings of, like, we tend to, we can all be guilty of it when you're trying to think of who you're like, who do I want to sell this product to? Who do I want to work with? The piece that gets missed is we just assume that everybody is having rational thoughts around, well, of course I would buy this product. Of course I need it. Of course this will help me. We think that that's enough, but digging down to the irrational thoughts, what's, for every conscious thought that we have, there's a subconscious thought that's beaming out a different frequency, often the exact opposite frequency. So being able, and some people call this the shadow side, and
Yes.
but I think that they're kind of deeply related in like knowing what subconsciously is going on, and maybe even consciously in the conversation in someone's mind.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, the way I explain it to people is, and I have pieces of content on that, a thought is just a string of words.
Mm-hmm.
So do you believe the string of words in your head, and do you act upon them? For an example, I'm not good enough, which is a very common thread of words for my people. And people realize that they don't have to believe their own thoughts. Like thoughts are just fleeting words in your head, right? The problem is when we start believing in them. So that's another good piece of content, right? That could be a title of I'm not good enough. And then you break down in the background, in the brain, what goes on with that thought.
Yeah. And I'm sure that even that one thing right there, not trusting in yourself and not feeling like you're good enough, is something, it's a theme that I think could translate to multiple businesses, not just even in the health and wellness, but beyond. I even think of myself with websites and branding. Clients come to me not feeling like they're good enough to invest, not that they're not good enough in business to even up level where they're at, right? Or even get into business. So I know that it resonates even within my own industry, ripples
Well,
outward.
I want to go back to my own background, right? The bio you shared with me at the beginning, but I came from a background of 15 years in the corporate world selling retail, which was mainly like dish soap and toilet paper, right? I ran a mass market division of Hudson's Bay Company. And that was one of the biggest hurdle coming into this type of business was like, you don't have to convince people to trust in themselves to buy toilet paper. They just buy it, right?
Especially now.
Right? It's just what it is. When now we're into the transformation industry, most of us are into that in the health and wellness, even supplement sales, right? These are luxury sales, they're optional sales. You have to connect to a different part of their brain and their heart to make these types of purchase. And that's how this whole strategy around nurturing funnel came through, is understanding the basic of business and the basic of marketing and the different trigger points of your client.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
And that's it. That's what I had for you today. That's what we teach in our mentorship program here. I'm just going to stop sharing.
So we've got Going Beyond the Food Method. That's your program?
Yeah, that's our program. So what we do is we help a very niche, right? I believe strongly in a niche. So my niche is women health entrepreneur and professional that help other women with food, and that they realize that the traditional approach isn't working. The typical dieting model doesn't work. So then we teach the intuitive eating way of eating, which is our natural state of relationship with food, and heal the body image so women can then move on to not be so obsessed with food and live a normal life like people who don't have issues with food and body image. So that's the process of transformation.
How does the mentorship program work? Do you run it all the time, or is it just, a few times a year that people can get into?
It's only a few times a year. It's twice a year where we onboard, because it's an extensive program. It's 6 months. We teach both professional skills. So we take people that are already certified into health coaching or nutrition, and then we layer in the professional training around intuitive eating, body image, and mindfulness, and so forth. And at the same time, we then layer in this new approach to business, which is heart-based, emotion-based, and then we help them rebuild their business from that perspective.
Awesome.
So it's intense. It's a 6 months, twice a year.
And I think, do we have a freebie that we're giving out to people?
Absolutely. So what I thought I would do, even if you're not into this non-diet business, Sign up for the freebie. It's the starter pack that I give to all the health professionals who want to work with me. And that's going to take you through a nurturing funnel. It's going to take you through my nurturing funnel for professionals.
That's awesome. So people are going to be able to see in action how you put it all together.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll put the link for that down below the video too, so people can grab that. This is awesome. You know, I want to really say that for me, let's see, my main takeaway was the phrase that you said about marketing is the art of making change happen. I thought that was a really beautiful way to put that, you know, and I also wanted to just say thank you, not only for being here, but also I really like, because funnels, they, oh my God, do they give people anxiety?
Absolutely.
Right? Even the word is just like, people just assume there's so many steps. And actually the way, you know, from being in the marketing space too, the way that it's talked about a lot is it's so masculine. It can be so left brain, right? Left, I always get them mixed up, but analytical, right? So it comes from this really masculine space of like, you know, you see the charts all written out, and this is what you need to sell here, and you need to have this call to action. All that is important, but what I wanted to really highlight about the way that you presented this to us is there was such emotion to it. There was such care and respect for your potential clients. And you even called it a nurturing funnel. And I love that. Even the slides, everything about it was really relaxing. And I know if I was just getting into this world, I would feel just a little bit more confident to actually put a funnel together. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. And it comes from my own experience, having gone through the fancy, complicated funnels, right? Very left brain, very technical, and not working.
Yes. Yeah.
Hours and weeks of work and all of it for nothing, because it was masculine.
Yeah.
And my audience is 99% female.
Yeah.
My business had to take a complete change to be of this feminine energy, because unfortunately marketing that's taught is mainly taught to us by men, people of a male gender that are very aggressive. And most of our clients don't respond to that.
Yeah, so I'm really glad to hear you say that. And I'm glad that your data backs that up, because it certainly backs it up for me too. Yeah. And I have been in your boat of building out complicated funnels and click funnels and this and upsells and downsells and buttons a very specific color, only to just have it not do anything in the end, you know?
Bingo.
And the things that I have gotten the most traction on are connecting emotionally with my clients. So whether that's through, and it could, you know, for people, you could pick your medium, whether you feel more comfortable on video. A lot of people don't, you know, you can write blog posts. I can see you have a podcast, you know, you've got, you can podcast. All you need is your phone, you know, you need your phone and a little lavalier mic to get started, or even, you know, if we want to upgrade to a better microphone. So there's so many different options out there for people to create the content that connects. But I think it all goes back to what you were saying in the beginning. You've mentioned a few times, just really knowing your ideal client inside and out. So I think for me, if that was for people listening, that's one of the best places to start, I think, is really. And before we get off, do you want to just like throw out a couple little tips about people getting to know their ideal client? What are some good ways for them to just start collating some of that information?
So for me, the number one place to start is understanding, have you been in their shoes at some point in your own journey? Most of us have a connection to what we're helping with, right? And if you don't, perhaps, I'm just suggesting, perhaps you need some type of modification of your niche so it's closer to you. So for an example, my niche for me is 40-plus-year-old women, because I don't necessarily connect well with a 25-year-old. I don't know what goes on in their head. So my niche is 40-plus women who've been dieting for a long time. So try to connect and create a niche, or find a niche where you can speak from the heart, that you have a connection with them. 2, so there's a great book called This Is Marketing by Seth Godin. So I'm a huge fan of Seth Godin, but this book can literally take you through step by step how to find your ideal client, and questions that you need to kind of fill the blank with to really connect at that emotional level with your ideal client.
That's brilliant. I haven't read that book. I like him a lot, but I haven't gotten in there. So that's going to be
My bedroom, my office room got like flip chart. I had like 15 flip chart on the wall when I was reading that book, writing stuff down. It really helped me. Just to put things in perspective, like in my program, it's a 6-month program. We spend 1 month just creating our ideal client image.
Huge. Yeah, huge.
Just like people understand how important it is.
Mm-hmm. And because that informs everything. That'll inform your content calendar for the year, your message, their sales pages, what kind of create, what kind of packages you put together for people. It says like, dial that shit in.
Absolutely. If we can use the word, absolutely. Spend like 70% of your time, because what happened when my students have done their booklet, like this is like the centric piece. They walk through the rest of the calendar of the things they have to do with that piece, like always referring back to that.
Right. Okay. You have provided so much value for us, Stephanie. Really appreciate you having the time to come here and talk to us. And you guys go below the video, grab the freebie, and walk through this funnel and see how much nurturing and care you feel as you go through it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, everybody. Bye. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you being here with us. I hope that in this session you learned something impactful and something powerful that's going to help transform your business. Before I leave, I just wanted to let you know that this session was sponsored by my business, Brand Better, branding, websites, funnels, and more for the wellness entrepreneur. If you want to learn more about my business, you can head over to brandbetter.online to find out more. And I also wanted to make sure to invite you to join me on Friday, the last day of the conference, July 3rd, for a half-day masterclass where I'm going to help you put this all together, the Wellness Business Accelerator, and make sure that we take all of the great concepts that you just learned in all of these amazing presentations with these great rockstar speakers and make a plan for your business. So it's going to be live and interactive. Check out your email to make sure what time it is on Friday, but it is going to be a live half-day masterclass. So I hope that you join me. I'd love to see you there. We're going to get some really good work done and make sure that we take all of these concepts and they're not just these, just sit and watch and take some notes and not actually employ any of these strategies. I want to make sure that these are real actionable things that you put in your business. So join me there on Friday. Go over and check out brandbetter.online to learn more about my business. And I'll see you on the next interview. Bye.